Planet Reddit. Today's story is...
My sister-in-law ruined my baby shower by saying I caught her brother. Her dad canceled her wedding funding. A few days ago, I had my baby shower. It was a small affair, just my fiancé, our families, and close friends. My fiancé Marcus and I are both 23 and have been together for 2 years. I moved in with him 6 months ago when I found out I was pregnant. At first I had my doubts because we are young, our relationship was relatively new and we hadn't even lived together yet. What's more, we had many goals to achieve and our families hardly knew each other. However, we both wanted to have this baby, so we decided that we could sort everything out little by little. My family accepted the news well, but Marcus's mother and sister reacted very badly. His sister Tori, 27, and his mother Ellie, completely changed their attitude towards me. Before Marcus told them about the pregnancy, that we would live together and get married after the birth, they had always been kind. Afterwards, they became distant and cold. They spoke to Marcus and, although they asked him not to tell me, he told me everything. They had 2 main reasons for objecting. Firstly, Tori was getting married at the end of the year to her long-term boyfriend and she didn't want anyone to take her attention away from him. Secondly, they thought that I was keeping the baby just to get married and join their family for their money. The first reason was childish, but the second was offensive. It's true that Marcus's family is well off. His father owns a law firm and his mother runs a restaurant. My parents work in publishing, and although we're not rich, we live comfortably. That's why his insinuations that I was with him for money or that I was trying to trap him with a baby seemed horrible to me. Luckily, Marcus never believed those accusations. In fact, he told me everything so that I could be warned with Tori and Ellie. We didn't completely cut off all contact to avoid problems, as Ben, Marcus's father, had specifically asked us to keep the peace because they had several important family events in the next 2 years, including the weddings of Tori and Marcus. He didn't want any drama at any of the celebrations. Out of respect for Ben, who had defended me, Marcus and I decided to maintain a cordial relationship with Tori and Ellie without cutting off contact. They acted the same. Everything remained calm for a while and, as Ben wanted to keep up appearances, he suggested we get engaged a couple of months ago when my pregnancy began to show. We could get married whenever we wanted, but he thought we should at least be engaged. Marcus and I agreed, so we got engaged and had a small celebration. After the engagement, Tori and Ellie became more upset and throughout the party they kept commenting that it was dangerously close to Tori's wedding. I didn't understand their concern because we had made it clear that we wouldn't get married until after the baby was born, and even then it would take months to organize everything. Our wedding would probably be almost a year after Tori's. Everything blew up at my baby shower when Tori, without warning, asked to see my engagement ring and commented out loud on how big the diamond was and how expensive it must be. She then made a very unpleasant comment saying that even if her brother decided not to marry me, my baby and I could live off the value of the ring, and suggested I keep it safe in case my plan to trap her brother with a baby failed. As there were only a few of us invited and we were all close, everyone heard her. She said it as if she was joking, but it was obvious that she was serious and only Ellie laughed. I was speechless and Marcus started arguing with her, but it wasn't necessary because Ben shouted at Tori demanding an apology. She refused, saying it was just a joke. When Ben insisted, they argued and he told her that if she was so worried about gold diggers, she could pay for her own wedding because he wouldn't spend a penny. At that moment I spoke up and said I thought it was a good idea, and right there and then it was decided that Ben would not pay for her wedding. Then there was a lot of drama and shouting, my friends left and it was just the families left. The argument went on for a long time. My family, Marcus, Ben and I were on one side, Tori and Ellie on the other. There were a lot of tears and shouting, but finally I asked Tori and Ellie to leave because it was getting too upsetting for me and that wasn't good for the baby. Everyone left except Ben, who stayed a few more minutes to apologize for everything. He told me he would completely understand if I didn't want to talk to his wife and daughter anymore, that I didn't have to pretend to be cordial because the situation had gotten out of control. I accepted his apologies because, being a traditional man, he was just trying to keep his family together, although clearly Ellie and Tori didn't want the same thing. Several days have passed since then. Marcus and I don't talk to his family, except for Ben, but Tori and Ellie keep sending him messages saying that I've ruined everything, that they don't know what will happen to the wedding now, that even Ben isn't talking to his wife, and that I need to fix this. Marcus is stressed, although he has made it clear that he doesn't want to get involved in the situation, but I know he feels bad, and I also feel guilty because I talked and encouraged Ben not to pay for his daughter's wedding, which caused all this. So, am I the bad guy for encouraging my father-in-law to punish my sister-in-law by refusing to pay for her wedding after his cruel accusations that I trapped her brother with a pregnancy? Addition, this is how it was all supposed to work, as many are confused as to how I could stop paying for the wedding when it was so close and almost everything was paid for. Both Marcus and Tori have their own wedding funds and everything that needed to be paid for in advance. Tori and her fiancé's family have already covered those expenses. The remaining expenses to be paid after the wedding would be covered by Ben, who would also give Tori a check to reimburse her for what she had already spent. They organized it that way to make it less complicated, but now that everything is arranged, Tori can't cancel because she has made several deposits that are non-refundable. If her father doesn't end up reimbursing her, she will have to pay for everything herself, and neither her fiancé nor her family are that wealthy. They are more or less in the same economic situation as my family. In short, they can't afford the wedding that Tori has planned, and that's why they're in big trouble now. Update 1. Thank you so much to everyone who responded. I appreciate all the comments and private messages. I spoke to Marcus about the situation and asked him if he was upset with me because, in the end, I had a part in this. He assured me that although he is affected by everything that is going on with his family, I am the last person he would be angry with because I only defended myself, and he is glad that I did. He told me that telling Ben that I was fine with him not paying for the wedding wasn't unfair, considering that Tori and Ellie were constantly insinuating that I was a gold digger trying to trap Marcus with a baby. He confessed that he couldn't even imagine how difficult it must have been for me to put up with these people for months and pretend that everything was fine, knowing exactly what they thought of me. At least until then they had had the decency to keep it private and not mention it to me directly, but Tori's comment at the baby shower was unacceptable, and he is glad that I spoke up. He explained that he is stressed just knowing that Tori and Ellie won't leave things as they are. He had thought that maybe in the future we could work things out, but given the current circumstances, it seems unlikely, and that worries him, that things won't be okay by the time the baby is born. I understand his position. I wouldn't be happy either if my family behaved like that, and, putting myself in his place, I understand how difficult all this has been for him. Until now I had given him space, thinking that was what he needed, but after our conversation, I decided to give him a hug and he broke down. He opened his heart to me completely. He told me how upset he was and how difficult it was for him to even block them out because they are his mother and his sister. They are his family and he wanted them to be part of his baby's life, but he also wanted them to apologize to me and make everything right again. The problem is that Tori and Ellie insist that it's all my fault. They say that Ben would only have threatened not to pay for the wedding, but he wouldn't have carried it out if I hadn't encouraged him. Like you, I asked Marcus why Tori and Ellie couldn't pay for the wedding themselves, since Tori has a job and Ellie runs a restaurant, but he explained that even if they pooled their money and decided to pay without asking for help, it's a question of pride for them. They want Ben to pay because he promised to, and they can't accept that he's going back on his word because of me. So this goes beyond money, there are many other things involved, and the situation is very complicated. It really shouldn't be, but Tori and Ellie are making it that way. Marcus told me that he hasn't responded to either of them, but they keep sending him messages making him feel guilty. They think I should do something to fix the situation, but we all know it's their fault and they should be the ones apologizing to me. This whole situation has him so frustrated that he hasn't been able to concentrate on anything else these days. I completely understand why Tori and Ellie are acting so irrationally. I don't understand how they could not even care what he is going through and still try so hard to make him suffer like this. They are being incredibly selfish and only care about themselves and their feelings. It's really absurd. Update 2. It's been a week and a half since the party and today I finally heard from Tori and Ellie. I didn't expect them to apologize because they seemed too proud for that, but it seems that their common sense overcame their pride because this morning I got a call from Ellie. I hadn't blocked them because I thought they might want to apologize at some point and I wanted to keep that possibility open. When Ellie called, I answered immediately and told her straight away that if she wanted to argue or convince me that I was wrong, she'd better hang up because I wasn't interested in any of that. Only if she wanted to apologize should she stay on the line. As she didn't hang up, I asked her to continue. Ellie and Tori, who were apparently together, told me that they were truly sorry for their behavior. They acknowledged that they had been mean and understood that this behavior was unacceptable, especially as I was in an advanced stage of pregnancy when they should have tried to stress me less, but instead they had worsened their attitude. They also admitted that they had hurt Ben and Marcus a lot, something that was never their intention. Now, because of their pettiness, the whole family was in crisis and they only had themselves to blame. They told me that they had argued a lot about the matter and had tried 1,000 ways to blame me, but deep down they knew the truth, it was all their responsibility. Until now their pride had prevented them from apologizing because they didn't think I deserved it, but they no longer had any other options because they were ashamed of what had happened. They asked me to find it in myself to forgive them and to have dinner with them, Marcus and Ben, to resolve the misunderstandings. I was so surprised that I didn't know what to say at the time. I told them I would think about it, but that for now I had nothing to say to them because it had been a long time since the incident and, even before that, things had not been going well. They had hurt me. They had hurt Marcus and ruined his relationship with Ben, so it wasn't up to me to forgive them on their behalf. I could only speak for myself and I needed time to think about whether I wanted to have anything more to do with them. Everything would be simpler if I wasn't pregnant, but in my current situation I don't want to expose myself to situations that would wear me down emotionally or upset me. The last time I spoke to them at the baby shower affected me a lot, so naturally I didn't want to repeat that experience. Right now I don't want to talk to anyone or put myself in stressful situations, so I need time to decide if I want them in my life and if I can forgive them. I can't speak for anyone but myself, so I don't know if making up with me will help them reconcile with Marcus and Ben. I can't promise them anything either. As for dinner, I don't know if it will work, at least for now. They were silent for a few minutes, but then they said they understood my position and that even if I didn't forgive them now, it would mean a lot if I at least told Marcus that they had apologized to me. Until now I had ignored them, but a few days ago I had blocked them completely and they feel terrible about everything. They really want a chance to make things right, not just with me but also with Marcus and Ben. So even if I didn't forgive them, I would do them a big favor if I could get Marcus to talk to them at least once. I didn't know what to say to them because, although I knew that Marcus wanted everything to be sorted out, if he had blocked them he probably had his reasons and I didn't want to interfere with that now. I told them that I would tell him about their apology, but that whether or not to unblock them would be his decision. I wouldn't get involved in that. They seemed a bit disappointed, but they told me it was okay and that they appreciated what I was doing for them. They also apologized for insinuating that I was only with Marcus for the money, because it was now evident that I cared about him more than anyone else, probably even more than they did as his family. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even listened to them, but I did because I cared about him and I knew I wanted his whole family to be happy. I told them they were right and that it was surprising how accurate they were. I guess it was the only thing we had in common, we all loved Marcus and wanted him to be happy. After that, we ended the call. Update 3, It's been a couple of days since the call and I told Marcus that his mother and sister had apologized to me, but I left it up to him to decide if he wanted to unblock them. I explained that this was what they had asked me to do, but that there was no pressure. He could unblock them or talk to them when he was ready. He told me that he still needed time to process their feelings and that for now he just wanted peace and quiet. All he wanted was to spend time with me and the baby, and that's what he's been doing these days. He only goes to work, and as I'm on maternity leave, I spend most of the time at home. As I have a lot of free time, I've made a special effort to keep everyone happy. I've been cooking his favorite dishes, and the sweetest thing is that when he comes home he also brings things he knows I like without being asked. Whenever he's at home, he talks to our baby through my belly, and I think it's the sweetest thing in the world. So these days have been very peaceful. We haven't talked about anyone else. Ben calls us from time to time, but even with him it's just that. However, today when he got back from work, he asked me if I would be okay with him talking to Tori and Ellie. I told him I was completely fine with it because I knew he wanted to make things right with them, and I think I would be fine with it now too. A lot has happened, but as we are about to start a new chapter in our lives in a few weeks, I think it's best to leave the past behind. And if he decided to forgive his mother and sister, I would support him, so we talked about it and then he decided to call Ben. We wanted to talk to Ben first to get his opinion. He had already spoken to his wife and daughter again a few days ago, but it wasn't like before. He could only spend so much time in the same house as his wife without talking to her. So at some point he had to try to communicate with her, and they kept things cordial, but they hadn't returned to normal. It was the same with Tori, as he visited frequently, so he ended up talking to her too, but the situation was similar. When we asked his opinion, he told us that he would be delighted for us all to have dinner together because he thought that would help resolve the awkwardness that everyone was feeling and that this was the perfect moment. After talking to him, we called Ellie and told her that we wanted to talk to her and Tori, and that we would like to have them over for dinner this weekend. She accepted immediately and put Tori on the phone, who also had no problem. So this weekend, in a couple of days, we'll have dinner together with her family and hopefully we'll be able to work everything out. I know a lot of people might not agree with me giving her another chance, but I think it's important to do so. Everyone I know, including myself, has been given a second chance after making a mistake. I don't think there's anyone who hasn't ever been given a second chance by someone. Even prisoners are given second chances when they are released. I think it's important to try to make things right, especially with the baby on the way. I don't want to get off on the wrong foot with anyone. I want everything to be peaceful, and I've also talked to my parents about it and they think I'm doing the right thing. I know I don't need to defend my decision, but I mention it because I don't want any negative comments about it. Or they can choose to be like that, but that will say more about the person making the comment than about me. Anyway, this makes Marcus happy and I hope we can sort things out over dinner. That way we can start to heal, and by the time the baby arrives, maybe we'll be a normal family. I'm hopeful about it. Update 4. Hi, I know I've been absent for a long time. It's been several weeks and I had completely forgotten to update here. I'm really sorry, but a lot has happened and I'll start with the dinner, which went really well. Better than I expected, to be honest. They sincerely apologized to me from the start, and Tori and Ellie told me that they were truly sorry for their behavior and that they were very embarrassed because it was in very bad taste and unjustified, especially since I had always been kind to them. I was very surprised at how sincere their apologies seemed, and although at first I had my doubts, after the dinner they really started to behave differently towards me. They began to visit me more often. They started helping me, and it seemed like they were doing everything they could to make me forgive them and feel comfortable with them. Over time I realized that they were being sincere, and they even apologized a couple more times after dinner. So I finally decided to forgive them, and then last week I went into labor and they were all there. My family, Marcus' family, and when the baby finally arrived, I think everyone was happier than ever. Since then, Marcus, our daughter, and I have had the time of our lives. My parents, their parents, and even Tori and her fiancé have been sending us gifts every other day and have been doing everything they can to help us so that we can devote all our energy to the baby. Anyway, that's what's been going on, and I've been busy with my life, so I haven't been able to update, but I guess this is as good an update as any, and I'll get back to my baby now because he's starting to get restless. I'm so grateful that everything worked out, and I'm truly happy.